Barry is the newest Epic Brawler coming to the game, and he completes the Candy Shop trio with Chester and Mandy. He's another one of Mandy's employees, and he seems to hate his job because of Mandy's anger issues and Chester's pranks. However, he continues to work at the Candy Shop because deep down, he's grateful to be a part of this little crazy family. Barry is also always wearing a unicorn costume, which doesn't really match his personality in my opinion, so I'm not sure why he wears it so much.
Yummy gummy, what a dummy. It's gonna be a sweet ride. Ugh. Unicorn power activate!
Stick around for the end of the video where we'll show all of his voice lines. You're gonna want to because they're pretty great. Barry's main attack is Meltdown. Barry throws a glob of ice cream on the floor that creates a puddle of melted ice cream that remains on the map for 6 seconds. Similar to Barley's main attack, enemies will take damage every second that they're touching the ice cream. However, the damage from each puddle does not stack over time, so it's more like Barley's super than his attack. In other words, if an enemy is standing on a puddle of ice cream already, the next attack will deal damage on impact, but then it basically just becomes attached to the existing puddle instead of stacking damage on top of it. So in a way, it kind of just extends the duration of the puddle on top of the additional damage from the first splat. Now, not only does this attack deal damage to enemies, it also heals Barry's teammates as well as himself. The healing works the same way as the damage, but it's only half the amount of damage that it deals. Now, next we have Barry's super, which is Sweet Swirl. Barry starts spinning around and dashes forward, dealing huge amounts of damage to enemies that he hits, and also heals teammates for the same amount. That is a lot of burst healing. Additionally, a trail of melted ice cream will be left behind him as he goes, and each of these puddles work exactly like the ones from his main attack. Another thing I should mention about his super is that you cannot use it to travel over water, so you'll just stop at the edge of the water if you try to go over it. Barry's first gadget is Friendship is Great. When Barry activates this gadget, he does a quick tail spin that knocks enemies back away from him. It doesn't actually deal any damage to them, but it does heal teammates that are hit by it for 1,000 health. Barry's second gadget is Healthy Additives. This gadget makes Barry's next main attack stay on the map for twice as long as a regular attack. So since the normal attack lasts for 5 seconds or 6 seconds if you count like the first splatter, this gadget makes his attack stay on the map for 10 to 11 seconds, depending on how you count it. That is just as long as Lou's super, by the way. Barry's first star power is Floor is Fine. With this star power equipped, as long as Barry is standing on one of his own ice cream puddles, his reload speed increases by 50%. With one of the slowest reload speeds in the game, this actually makes up a huge difference for him. Though, you'll have to sacrifice an entire ammo to make it work out, which is why you only want to use it when he actually needs to heal. Barry's second star power is Making a Mess. This star power increases the first tick of damage for every attack he throws by 20% as long as he doesn't throw it on an ice cream puddle that's already on the ground. So if there's an ice cream puddle already on the ground and Barry throws some more ice cream on top of it, then he won't get the damage boost. I should also mention that this star power does not increase the healing of his attack in any situation. Now, one of the most unique aspects about Barry is his trait that allows him to charge his super just by healing his teammates. He cannot charge his super at all by healing himself, and the super charge rate for healing his teammates is slightly less than dealing damage, but it's still so much easier for him to charge his super by throwing an attack at a teammate, and they can actively go and stand on it for the healing, as opposed to dealing damage to enemies who are very likely going to just run away from the ice cream puddle. Now that we understand Barry's abilities, it's time for us to compare him against every other brawler in the game using the Brawl Stars Olympics tests. The tests aren't always great for showing how strong brawlers are that are support brawlers, so we'll talk about how strong he is afterwards. First up, we have the Supercharge test. Now, Barry is able to charge his super in 9 hits if they are all on enemies, and 12 hits if he's only healing his teammates. This can technically be done with 2 ammo, but it's very unlikely that anybody's going to be standing on top of the attack for that long, right? The fastest he can charge it is 4.8 seconds, so Barry gets 69th place out of the 81 brawlers in the game. Next is the 1 second DPS test. Barry throws his first attack and then uses his super so that he runs into the boss at about the same time that his attack hits hits the ground. He's able to get one more attack off after, which altogether deals a total of 5,944 damage, and that puts him in 63rd place. Next, we have the attack range test. Barry can throw his attack 5 2/3 tiles away, but it has a radius of 1 1/3 tiles. That comes to a total range of 7 1/3 tiles, so Barry ties with Ems and Poco for 57th place. Keep in mind that Barley has a 1 1/3 tile further range than Barry does, so this is a short range for a thrower. Next, we have the assassin test, where brawlers have 3 seconds to deal as much damage as possible. Barry's ice cream puddles easily stay on the map for the duration of this test, so his last few shots only deal a single tick of damage while the boss takes damage every second. He only has time to get one super off on the boss for a total of 10,960 damage, which puts him in 56th place, which is below average. Next is the super range test. Now, the reticle of Barley's super reaches across 8 2/3 tiles, but it technically has a range of 9 tiles because the melted ice cream left behind actually stretches a little bit further. He actually ties with Sam, Kit, Charlie, Amber, and Otis for 46th place. Next is the reload test. Barry's first star power gives him a boost to his reload speed during this whole test. It still takes him 19.2 seconds to unload and reload 10 shots, so he gets 42nd place out of all the brawlers. An average reload speed when he's using his star power. Keep that in mind. Now, in all those tests, Barry was worse than half of the brawlers. For the remaining tests, he's better than half of the brawlers. Next is the boss test, and if Barry's melted ice cream damage stacked on top of each other, he might have one of the fastest scores in the game for this test, but he can't do that. Thankfully, his star power does give him more shots. Also, his gadget increases the damage over time, and his super creates even more ice cream. Even without the damage stacking, Barry is still able to defeat the boss in 39 seconds, and that puts him in 41st place. Next, we have the area test. Barry's attack breaks 9 skulls, and his super breaks 33 skulls. Even though his gadget doesn't deal any damage, it does break 22 skulls, and in total, Barry breaks 64 skulls, so he ties with Stu for 37th place. However, I think that Barry's attacks, just the fact that they stay on the ground for so long, is a good indicator that he's going to be way better at map control than this test would suggest. Next, we have the auto aim test. Now, Barry's attack has a pretty good size radius, and that's what allows him to barely hit Nita from 5 tiles away. His star power adds a little bit of damage to the attack, so 1,084 damage puts Barry in 30th place. Next, we have the race test. Now, Barry immediately uses his super to get a head start in this test, and he only has a normal movement speed, so he ties with a lot of brawlers for like average movement, right? He also doesn't have any other abilities other than his super to increase his speed. He finishes the race test in 10 seconds, so he gets 28th place. Next is the splash test. Barry uses his super on over half of the boxes and then instantly uses his attacks on the last row of boxes. In the time it takes Barry to take out the last row of boxes, the ice cream puddles from his super have taken out the first 3 rows. Barry completes the test in 5.8 seconds. That puts him in 17th place, which shows that he's pretty good at splash damage. Next is the swarm test. Now, the fastest way for Barry to take out the swarm is by using 2 supers to take out 2 rows of bots each. Just the damage from the impact of his super is easily enough to take out the bots, so he doesn't have to wait at all for the melted ice cream damage. Barry defeats the swarm in 3.1 seconds and ties with BB for 16th place. Next is the box test. Barry is able to hit multiple boxes at a time with his attack and reloads his shots faster with his first star power. Since his damage over time doesn't actually stack, it's actually faster for him to just occasionally wait a few seconds for the ice cream to take the boxes out so that he has more ammo for the next group of boxes. He completes the box test in 29.2 seconds, which puts him in 15th place and suggests he's actually going to be pretty good at ramping up damage in Showdown, both solo and duo. Next is the super damage test. Now, Barry's super deals 3,040 damage on impact and heals 3,040 damage to his teammates on impact. Once again, it's unlikely that an enemy is going to stand on the melted ice cream the entire time it's on the map, but it can technically add 6,600 damage to the super. In total, that's 9,640 damage, so Barry gets 8th place. Although this isn't a great representation for his super damage. Next, we have the 3 attack kill test. Now, although this is even worse of an example for Barry, with the help of his first gadget, his 3 ammo can potentially deal 18,744 damage. Enemies are easily going to avoid that, but that is a lot of damage to a target that can't move for like 18 seconds. 18,744 damage puts Barry in second place. But of course, next is the survival test. Since Barry can heal himself with his attack, he can survive the sniper bot for an infinite amount of time. He gets 5 ticks of 660 health every second, and one shot from the sniper only deals 500, so he doesn't even get close to dying. The only other 2 brawlers that are able to survive infinitely are Pam and Tara, so he ties with them for first place, although I think that his healing is even more effective than both of those brawlers. Like I said, as a support brawler, Barry's abilities don't perform like super great on the Olympics, so the real question is, how strong is Barry actually going to be? And my answer is strong. Very strong. I'm putting him in the S tier for gem grab, and this is going to be one of his best game modes because it is all about controlling the gem mine, and no other brawler offers as much control with their attacks as Barry does. His attacks can deal damage for up to 6 seconds. For reference, Lou's super stays on the ground for 10 seconds. So with 2 attacks, Barry can control a section of the map for longer than Lou's super. And with 3 attacks thrown all right next to each other, Barry can cover just as much area as Lou's supers can. But he doesn't even have to charge a super for him to do that, right? Also, his super covers more area than Lou's does, even though it's in a weird long shape, right? Not only does he offer amazing map control, but he can also keep himself alive by healing himself, or he can keep a teammate gem carrier alive as well by healing them if they're in a tricky situation. Also, you know your teammates that are stupid and go like crazy aggressive and jump on the enemy team when all 3 of them can attack them? I don't know why they do that, but whatever. If you're playing Barry, it doesn't matter. You could heal them from a distance from the protection of a wall. And if Barry is carrying a ton of gems, not only can he heal himself, but he can use his super and his pushback gadget to easily get out of harm's way. Next, we have Hot Zone, and if gem grab isn't Barry's best game mode, Hot Zone is going to be. Like, he's going to be like Chuck was in Heist, but for Hot Zone. And this is for all the same reasons why he's good in gem grab. His control is absolutely insane, and he can easily damage enemies and keep teammates alive, all while gathering up points in the zone. And I think that his abilities to control the map will absolutely make up for how low his HP, his short ranges, and the fact that he has a slow reload speed. Even just playing against bots, I can tell he's going to be really strong in Hot Zone. Now next we have Brawl Ball, and this might surprise you, but I'm going to say A tier. Brawl Ball isn't typically a game mode where you want to play throwers, especially a short range thrower like Barry. However, Barry has a super dash that can make for some really sneaky plays. Those are always really useful in Brawl Ball. And he also has his knockback gadget that can be used on defense to get the ball out of an enemy's way, even if he doesn't have the quick burst damage to take out an enemy who's coming up towards your goal. And I think that's going to make up for the fact that he doesn't have a ton of burst potential. I don't think that he's going to be like the star player of a Brawl Ball. Well, he might be star player, but like he's not going to be the star of the show, but he's going to be a top pick to support certain brawlers that will take massive advantage of his healing abilities. Now, next we have Heist. I'm going A tier as well. I know what you're thinking. Typically, low damage brawlers with slow reload speeds just don't do well on Heist. After all, Barry likely isn't going to be great at defending against super aggressive brawlers that thrive in the game mode. However, on offense, I think Barry's going to be much better than you might think. You don't want to drop all of his attacks directly onto the safe since their damage doesn't stack, and it takes a while to reload his attacks. But if you consistently keep one attack on the safe while using Barry's remaining attacks to attack enemies and keep himself and teammates alive, I think Barry could be just such a good support brawler for Heist. Possibly the best, but it's obviously going to take a little bit of coordination with your teammates, which I don't know if you just play with randoms. Maybe he's F tier for Heist. Next, we have Bounty, and I'm going to put him in the B tier here. This is a game mode where Barry likely just is not going to like thrive in every situation. He doesn't have the range or the burst damage to do well on most maps. However, I do think he's going to be strong enough to justify playing him, especially as like a way to support certain brawlers and on maps where there are lots of walls. And despite him not having as much range as other throwers that are typically good in Heist, or what did I say? Bounty? This is Bounty. I do think that his super is going to help him in assassinating other throwers that struggle in close range combat, like Dynamite, Grom, or Sprout. Next, we have Knockout. And Knockout is very similar to Bounty. But I actually think he's going to be much better in Knockout simply because he can charge his super by healing himself and his teammates. So yeah, I'm going to go with A tier. This means that he won't have to rely on dealing damage to charge his super, and he'll be able to use it as a way of assassinating brawlers that struggle in close combat, which is really impactful in Knockout because unlike Bounty, where enemies just can respawn or whatever, enemies can't do that in Knockout, which means that all you need is just one good super to assassinate somebody to completely change the entire match, which is why I think A tier is actually justified for Barry. Next, we have Solo Showdown, and I'm going to give him B tier. His abilities just aren't great for Solo Showdown. Even though he can heal himself and stay alive, which is something that no other brawler can do as consistently as Barry, he just doesn't have the burst damage to thrive in Solo Showdown. But he is a really good brawler like overall, so I don't think he's going to be worse than B tier. In fact, maybe he's too strong and he'll end up being A tier, maybe even S tier. I don't know, we'll have to see, but I'm going to go with B tier once he gets a little balanced. As for Duo Showdown though, I'm going to go with A tier. Despite Barry's weaknesses in Solo Showdown, he's going to be pretty good in Duo Showdown, I think. Being able to support a teammate who is aggressively chasing down enemies even from behind a wall is actually huge in Duo Showdown. And the fact that he has an amazing escape with his super means that he'll be able to survive really tricky situations. Also, I think him being able to put down attacks to control the map is going to make him just a bit better in Duo Showdown than in Solo Showdown. And the fact that he can actually charge his super by attacking his teammates, or not attacking them, by healing them. I think he's going to be pretty solid. I actually think Barry is going to be very strong even with his weaknesses. Just overall, he's going to be really good. But the real question is, what it absolutely comes down to is, what do his voice lines sound like?
Oh, peace at last. Always with the self-destruction. Oh. Unicorn tears. We don't make mistakes, just happy little accidents. Taking the sour with the sweet, getting back on my feet. Not gonna sugarcoat it. Oh, stop horsing around. Oh, don't hate the horn. Ow! Color me sad. Art is pain. Oh, the bitter taste of disgrace. Salty, sour, and sore. Wow, you didn't even try. Why the long face? Oh, that's me. What a colorful demise. Color me bad. My candy is not for kids. I like to beat the brush. Time for candy. Oh, gotta watch out for Mandy. Happy horsey. Some tears for dessert. Sweet dreams. The sound of salty tears brings sweetness to my ears. Yummy gummy, what a dummy. Sour, not sweet. Enjoy your defeat. So amazing, go me. Sweet dreams are made of this. Rainbow sparkles, woo. In chaos we find our true colors. Prepare for a bitter dose of reality with a dash of berry. So many emotions. Great, time for more humiliation. Let's melt your hopes and freeze your dreams. Ain't no valley low enough. Time to turn that frown further down. War is my canvas, time to doodle. Here comes an extra scoop of berry sugar. Sweet and sour, candy is my power. It's gonna be a sweet ride. Ugh. Very nice to meet you, Sparkles. All the colors of the rainbow! Crushing dreams and candy-coating nightmares! Rainbows and mayhem! Unicorn power activate!
I want to know what you guys think about Barry, okay? Let me know. His voice lines, they might be a little bit too OP. But also, make sure you subscribe for the Clancy Olympics. He's the newest next brawler, and he's really interesting. Don't forget to use code Kairos in the Brawl Stars shop. Kairos, code Kairos in the Brawl Stars shop. Powerful enough to combat Barry's depression or whatever it is. He's a sad unicorn.